Welcome to Spoiler Piece Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Megan Kearns. My pronouns are she, her. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network. I'm a co-host of the Slashers podcast, a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and a member of Gallica, the Society of LGBTQ Entertainment Critics.
My name is Dave Riedel. My pronouns are he, him. I write about movies, and I'm also a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, but you don't have to salute me. Don't worry about it.
My name is Evan Cree, and I'm co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. I'm co-author of Your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living. I'm co-host of the It's the Pictures podcast, and my pronouns are he, him.
All right. I'm feeling I feel like so much energy. I think I drank too much coffee. So I'm like, woo, 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 raring to go. So speaking of raring to go, before we dive into this week's show, we want to tell you about our Patreon bonus episode. Every week we put out bonus episodes for $5 a month, and you can vote in monthly polls. And for this week's bonus episode, we talk about the month of August poll winner, which was about book adaptations or movie adaptations of books. And the winner was the James Bond film, Never Say Never Again. And whoo boy, did we have a lively conversation with that one, with tangents aplenty. So if you're a patron...
Tangents galore.
I see what you did there. Nice. So if you're a patron, go check it out. And if you're not, consider joining. We also want to give a huge thank you to our sponsor piece patron, Heather Sachs. Heather, thank you so much.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks, Heather.
And now let's get to the show. Woo, woo, woo. Okay, so this week we're going to be talking about the horror movie The Deliverance and the drama Mountains. So we're going to start with The Deliverance, which is written and directed by, it's not written, sorry, I was going to say written and directed by Lee Daniels, but no, he only directed it. It's written by David Coggeshall and Elijah Bynum, and it stars Andra Day, Glenn Close, Monique, and Anjanou Ellis-Taylor. And here is the synopsis. Oh, this is a long one. Ebony Jackson is a struggling single mother fighting her personal demons. She moves her family into a new home for a fresh start. But when strange occurrences inside the home raise the suspicions of Child Protective Services and threaten to tear the family apart, Ebony soon finds herself locked in a battle for her life and the souls of her children. And it's inspired by a true story. All right, yeah, so that is true. That was a synopsis from the press release. And she is struggling with addiction. She is either an alcoholic or she just, I don't want to say just has a drinking problem, but she has a drinking problem. And it is a source of tension between her and her mother, her and her children, her and child services, kind of everyone. And everyone's telling her, you need to stop, you need to, get your life together. And she has a very fractured relationship with her mother, Glenn Close. And there was abuse, seems neglect that happened when she was a child. And now her mother has found religion and goes to church all the time and is like, you need to find Jesus too, and lives in the home with Ebony and her 3 kids. And yeah, she doesn't seem to have a great relationship with her kids. They're all they hide bottles of alcohol from her, and they all seem like they're waiting on edge for her to hit them or snap at them. Mm-hmm. But she's got 2 older kids, who are teens, and then she has the youngest son who kind of talks to himself and seems, I don't know if he actually has issues, but she makes it sound like he has a lot of issues. And later we find out he's talking to an imaginary friend who's not imaginary. Spoiler alert, it's the devil. But yeah, and they moved into this new house. They're in Pittsburgh, and she's kind of fixing it up, and weird shit starts happening kind of right away. Not supernatural weird, just weird as in there's lots of flies. There's, some strange, she's having strange dreams. And then later you find out the flies are coming from the basement because there was a dead cat in the basement.
Yeah, and a dead bird in the yard, and her youngest son is sleepwalking, drinking milk out of the fridge, even though he's lactose intolerant, and just wandering around, getting trapped in the basement at all hours of the night.
Yep. Yeah, and that's basically what happens for a large portion of the movie until things take a turn and like her older son is strangling her younger son in the bathtub and the kids are having weird bruises on themselves and they're blacking out and they're not remembering things and Glenna Close is convinced that Ebony is beating them and so Child Protective Services intercedes and they take the kids out of the home and then they're in a hospital and they're being tested on and then I forgot before the weird shit happens at the hospital there's a weird incident at their school where the youngest son says he has to go to the bathroom and he stands up in the middle of class and shits and then proceeds to fling his shit at the teacher and also eats it and then her daughter is like having her period and like is just bleeding down her legs and just again standing in class not doing anything and then the oldest son is also having problems in the school too kind of all these weird like uncontrollable bodily function issues so then while all of this is happening Ingenue Ellis Taylor is there. She comes and she's like, I know what's going on with your house. And Ebony's like, yeah, it's just a weird old house. And she's like, no. The devil's there. The devil set up shop and did the same thing to the previous family. And I tried to save them, but I couldn't save them. But I know how to save your family. And she's like, oh, are you talking about an exorcism? And she's like, no, not an exorcism.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a deliverance. So, yeah. And so that's basically what happens. And then there's a deliverance, aka an exorcism that happens at the end of the film. So, yeah. We'll get into more of the details, but that's the broad strokes. So what did you guys think?
I was not a fan.
Dave?
This movie's a real piece of shit. To go along with the feces that the youngest kid throws. And I missed him eating that. I remember them, saying somebody at the hospital being like,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Because he doesn't do it on camera. Right?
No, we don't see it. They talk about him doing it. Or Andra Day says it. When she's yelling at like the psychiatrist or psychologist, she's like, my son was eating shit.
Yeah.
And you're saying he's fine? Yeah, I fucking hated this. Cards on the table. I hated it. We all hated it.
Yeah, it was painful. It was brutal.
It really is painful to watch. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to? Oh, go ahead, please. Yes.
Well, you explained it all pretty well. I mean, this is like I don't want to say poor man's because this movie obviously had a little bit of money, but like the poor man's Exorcist. It's just like. It's like the story is taking on faith that you as an audience member will have seen so many of these movies that you'll just go along with everything. And by the way, just answer me a question. Who moves into a house that has a fucking hole in the basement with a radius of 2 feet? I mean...
Poor people? That's the only part that I don't quibble with because when you don't have a lot of money and you don't have a lot of options.
But she won't go down to that basement, remember? Because she's like,
I do remember,
scared or something. So there's just, I just, and then what's the little boy's name? Is it Andre?
Yeah, or they call him Dre.
Dre, right. And he keeps going down there and like banging his head. That's the place where he keeps banging his head in the back of the door, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so fine. You quibble with the hole in the ground. Fine. But
no, I don't quibble with the hole in the ground.
I mean, you quibble with my quibbling
with Dave's
with the
quibble,
hole.
Yes. I'm just saying, I mean, I don't really quibble with it because it's a fair criticism. I'm just saying I didn't have a problem because I'm like, when you are poor, you don't have a lot of money or a lot of options, so you take what you can get, sadly, when it comes to accommodations.
Yeah, and I don't really know how to put this. These are the least likable characters. Every character. Every character.
It's true. This movie really, you're not rooting for anybody here because there's just no one likable to be rooting for.
Yeah.
At least that's one of my main issues.
Mom sucks. The little boy sucks. The older boy sucks. The only one who doesn't really suck is the daughter. She's
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
she's fine.
But she's the middle child, so everybody forgot about her anyway, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, she still got her iPhone for her birthday.
right.
Yeah, she did. She had a birthday party.
The apostle sucks. Glenn Close mom sucks. What is Glenn Close doing in this fucking movie? The things that she says when she's possessed, it's like,
I mean, what was she doing in the J.D. Vance movie?
yes, what is she like?
That's what I kept thinking, like, this is a weird companion piece to that.
Yeah, I feel like
performance.
she likes acting in roles that where she needs to transform herself physically. She
Yeah,
seems to
that's true,
enjoy
too.
that as a performer. Like, I'm gonna make myself look completely different from how I normally look, because that's what I feel like
Boy,
a lot
does
of this
she.
character is like makeup and a kind of like persona that doesn't have a lot of depth to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's wigs, it's makeup, it's teeth, it's boobs being shown. Then
Yeah.
when she gets possessed, it's like kind of looks sort of like a reject from one of the witches, like in the movie The
yep.
Witches.
The Witches,
Yeah.
yep. I
Yeah.
thought that too.
Yeah, nice.
But just like, yeah, every character in this movie is horrible to varying degrees.
Mhm. Yeah, especially in Monique too. You're like, you're with CPS or whatever, but you still seem like you're an asshole with a vendetta who is just trying to like screw with this family. So I can't root for you either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think it's so interesting hearing you guys say that, because I'm not someone who needs to root for a character. Like, give me all terrible characters. I'm totally fine with that. Having said that, though, if you're gonna have terrible people all doing terrible things or obnoxious things, you need to make them compelling. Like, they need to be magnetic. They need to be interesting. Their interactions have to be fascinating,
Yeah.
Mhm.
or the visuals have to be like, there has to be some kind of draw or pull. And yeah, there is nothing
Yeah.
to captivate you here by
Right.
these characters. So they're not captivating and they're all terrible. It's a lethal combination.
Yeah, Ebony's just mean. I mean, now
She is ruthlessly mean, but not like fun ruthless mean. She's just like vicious.
I'm not saying she doesn't have reason to be, given what we learn about her backstory. But at the
Right.
same time, let's not talk about this in human terms. Let's talk about this in movie terms.
Mhm.
This is not somebody, and I don't have to root for everybody either. I mean, I don't root for Dirty Harry, but I fucking watch all the Dirty Harry movies. You know?
No, that's fair. Yeah.
And it's too bad that Ebony couldn't have been played like Clint Eastwood, I guess. Fucking stupid thing to say.
Actually, I don't think it's as stupid as you say.
But it's just like, I think that the performance is like too realistic. You know, her performances.
I think the performances are terrible.
But I think her performance is like, I've known that parent plenty of times who just like, I had friends growing up whose parents were just like that. And it's just like, I don't want to be around that shit. I don't want to watch that movie,
Nope.
So.
Well, I think, so when it comes to a horror movie of this style where they need to be kind of battling an evil force, I feel like that's where it's more important to want to root for the people, because you
good point.
should want them to win against the evil force.
No, that's fair. That's a fair point.
What are we even here for? Like, why are we watching this movie? Like, I mean, it'd be one thing if they took such a hard pivot where all these people were so evil. You're like, who's more evil, the devil or them? That would actually be really interesting. But that's not this movie. They're just like your kind of average family of terrible people who are fighting the devil for, I don't even really know. It just doesn't go anywhere interesting.
Mm-mm. No. Well, I think, it's interesting, Dave, that you had mentioned, obviously, The Exorcist, which is, such an iconic possession film and exorcism film. But then there's so many great possession films, Possession. And that is a great film. But
I'm a big fan of The Conjuring.
Yeah, there's The Conjuring. But I was thinking just this year, there's The First Omen, which I love.
Yep.
And that has such great visuals, and it has great body movements, like within the possession happening. And you're dealing with religion and exorcisms and, all that in the ether and all those themes. And there actually are a lot of religious horror films this year. But yeah, this was just, it's so tedious, and the writing is bad, and there's so many tropes in it, and just,
It's
it just
shallow.
feels, it is, it's very
Mm.
shallow, and it just feels lazy. And I read the, in the Netflix, because it's a Netflix film, I read the press, within the press notes, there was a director's statement by Lee Daniels, and he's talking about how he wants this to be a call to religion and a call to faith, and how important faith is, and how we need faith, and we need to come together and not be a fractured society, and all of that. And I'm just like, if this is the movie where you think you're going to motivate people to turn to religion or turn to faith, like, I mean, I am not a religious person. I am an atheist, but at the same time, this is not the movie that's going to make me be like, I need to rethink everything and turn to my faith. And I think even if I was a spiritual or religious person, this isn't that movie. Like, it's,
Right. Yeah, it doesn't go
uh,
hard enough on the religious aspect. It doesn't go deep
no.
enough on any of these themes. I mean, speaking of The First Omen, it's about as good an idea as the church has in that movie to, let's bring the Antichrist and that will make people more religious. Yeah, it's about as smart as that.
Yeah. Well, I also think there's something really bizarre about its handling of exorcisms, and kind of the insistence that, oh, no, 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 this is not an exorcism, this is a deliverance. Like, what really gives Anjanou Ellis Taylor, her character, the authority to do this? Like, I would have loved if there was like a twist where it's like, oh, she's actually trying to bring the devil in, and she's not really somebody who can do an exorcism or is trying to do an exorcism. Or it would have been maybe interesting if Ebony had consulted another religious leader and was like, hey, this person's telling me to do this, like getting a second opinion, like, should I do this? And they're like, no, that's wrong. Or I don't know. I think there were some opportunities there to kind of bring in some complexity. And like you said, Evan, it's shallow. There's just none of that. It's just, and this feels just like poverty porn and abuse porn. Like, it just is trolling in that like realm, and it's just, it's icky and it's awful.
And here's the other thing I don't understand. So I think it's the Apostle. I'm just going to keep calling her the Apostle because that's what she calls herself. When she first gets together with Ebony and she's telling Ebony about the previous family that was in there and all the crazy shit that happened to them. I don't need explanation. In fact, in horror movies, explanations usually ruin everything. But going back to The Exorcist, she plays with a Ouija board, she gets possessed. That's all you need to know. You know, it's like you see her playing with it, and then she plays with it again, and the eye moves on its own, and they're like, that's weird. But in this, it's like you've got this loving family who's so happy to be in a home, and they're the ones who get possessed. Like, what is it about the ground? It's the patch of ground. It's not the I mean, there's something about that. Just the non-explanation. It's kind of like in All the President's Men, where you have a non-denial denial. They don't actually deny it. They just say the thing that you're saying is wrong. This is like the non-possession possession. It's like there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's kind of like what you were saying, Megan. It's like, how are we going to take this apostle's word for this? How do we know that she's correct?
Right.
You know, I mean, maybe the woman who beheaded her husband and then held up his head in front of her daughter.
Oh my God. That's a scene.
That was amazing. I was like, well, after she brings down the axe, I thought she just like did him in the back, did him in the chest, you know, your standard, whatever. And then when she picks him up, when she realizes what the horrible thing she's done, and you see like he doesn't have a head, I was like, the fuck? And then when she goes down to pick it up and she picks it up, I'm like, I can't believe this movie is going there. This is insane.
I mean, that's a bold move. I'll give the movie that.
Yeah.
It gets even crazier when the daughter comes in, because the daughter is wearing an In Living Color t-shirt from the sketch that Damon Wayans and David Alan Grier used to do, where they were the gay critics and said hated it. And I'm like, well, what? That movie is going there with that reference in the scene where a daughter comes in and sees her beheaded father? What?
I didn't even see that. I
That
was
is
just
not the
I
tone
didn't see
of
the
like
T-shirt either.
it is such a weird like reference point. Like it's accurate for the time of like 1993, but it's a very weird reference to throw in a very serious gory scene.
Yeah. I wonder if that was even the thought or if it was just like, oh, we need a shirt from the 90s. Like,
Yeah. Oh, and Living Color. That was a show that was on
right,
that, you know.
right. Yeah, it's a black show, not solely, but like that was a skit by black actors, black comedians.
Right.
Like, yeah, we'll put that in because it's a black family. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of almost hope
Weird
it
choice.
wasn't intentional, or maybe I do hope it was intentional. I don't even know. I just don't know. I think if you have seen, I think you had said something very similar, Dave, earlier. If you've seen, oh no, you said something that like this movie hinges on you seeing other
Yeah.
possession films, but it is almost weirdly more like a haunted house film, even though it's not along those like it's not playing into those genre conventions of a haunted house film. Like The Inception is kind of a haunted house-esque thing, premise, but also it hinges on you seeing them, but it also just feels like it's retreading all of those same narratives and tropes from other possession and haunted house films, but not nearly as well.
Yeah. Well, and right down to the way that like Andre, when he's in the hospital and he's strapped down, he's talking to Monique and he's like, undo these straps, unstrap me and I'll talk to you. It's like, all right, nice fucking Mercedes McCambridge voice. But then he just unstraps himself, not in The Exorcist, but then he like climbs up the wall and it's
like a spider.
In the weirdest, fakest looking way possible. The way they animated that was just so odd to me.
Yeah. But also it's just like, they actually cut the stuff of her walking upside down in the original version of The Exorcist because
Yes,
they're
they
like,
did.
it's too weird. And we don't want her outside the bedroom. And I'm just thinking, watching this going like, this is too weird because the next thing he should do is jump at Monique and kill her if that's
right.
but then she's just like, oh, doctor, he's acting fucking weird. It's like,
Yeah.
what?
And a nurse is like, I'm not going back in that room.
Yeah. I don't blame that nurse,
her.
by the way.
No, that nurse might be the best person in the film because it's most relatable. I will say, I will give this movie a bone, and I will say, I think that Anjanou Ellis-Taylor does the best with what material she is given. I think she's an exceptional actor, and I think she does a solid job here, as good as she can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys don't agree, that's totally fine. I'm just saying that for me was, I mean, everything else is terrible. Like I said, the writing, the cinematography, this is so muddy. Like the lighting is not good. Everything just looks dark. And I don't mean dark as in like spooky shadows. Like everything just looks monotonous and not in an intentional way. It just, nothing is good. This
it has
was not,
no momentum whatsoever. It never feels like it's building to anything.
No.
And then
It's
that ending
listless.
is fast.
That ending is fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do we think about that ending? In the ending, to spoil it, since this is spoiler piece, in the ending, Anjanou Ellis-Taylor is throwing holy water on Andre, and it's like burning him. But then he attacks her, and then she's dying, and she's like, "I doubted myself. I didn't fully believe. You have to believe in yourself, Ebony." And then Ebony.
Oh, that's right. Her mother says that to her.
Yes.
Right.
And then Ebony is
accepts Jesus into her heart.
Yes. And then is like, I rebuke you and all of that.
And she fights Shadow Link.
Yes.
The shadow version of herself.
Yes.
Like,
very
metaphor.
Did you say Shadow
very
Link?
Yes.
Very Legend of Zelda too.
Yeah.
Very Link Legend of Zelda 2, I must say, where you fight your shadow self.
Yeah. That's actually harder than the main villain.
That is harder than the main villain. I know. It's so hard.
Yeah, anyway, so the whole thing when she like accepts Jesus into her heart and then Jesus like explodes the basement.
That's right. Jesus does explode the basement.
Jesus is going to blow the doors off this joint.
Jesus loves an explosion, apparently.
Jesus is a fucking pyro technic master. Let's hire Jesus to do the stunts for, the explosions for the next Die Hard sequel. Anyway,
amazing. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I also, having experience with religious stuff. The whole idea that some fucking loon is going to come to me and be like, I'm an apostle and you've got like, this is the most haunted house that I've ever seen. And here's this story. It would have been like, here's $20. Get the fuck out of my face. You know? So
Well, yeah, it's just not very plausible.
go
And I know this sounds
proselytize
weird.
somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, I know this sounds weird in a movie where there's possession and a hole and it's a portal to hell and there's the devil and all that, but you have to have some grounded parts, and yeah, it just was not. All right, do we have any other final thoughts, observations, anything we want to say about this?
I don't.
I know this was such an unpleasant watch.
Yeah, it was a real
word for it.
grind.
Thank you. Yes.
You know what really
Agreed.
grinds my gears? Since you can do that voice so well.
You know what really grinds my gears? When you can't find the droids you're looking for.
Yeah. Grinds my gears too.
All right, well, let's move on to Mountains, which is a drama written and directed by Monica Sorrell in her directorial debut. It's co-written by Robert Colombe, and it stars Ataban Nazaire, Sheila Inozier, and Chris Renoir. And let me give you the synopsis for this. Immigrant worker Xavier dreams of a more spacious home for his wife and son while earning a living, demolishing old houses, dismantling his rapidly changing neighborhood of Little Haiti in Miami in this tender and vibrant family portrait. That is from the press release. I love when a press release, kind of reviews its own movie.
Yeah.
like this tender and vibrant family portrait. So that is the premise. But that's also mainly the plot of the film. It's a very basic premise, in that Xavier is going to work every day and he's, with his wife who he loves and his son Junior, who is in his 20s, lives there. And you get a lot of scenes of Xavier driving to work, and you see a lot of Little Haiti. You see a lot of businesses changing. You see houses that are going up for sale or people moving out. You see a lot of change. And this film really, in addition to being about this family and this kind of loving depiction of this very tight family, you also get a sense of the Haitian American community in Miami, and you get a sense of the gentrification that's happening and how so many houses are being sold and being demolished for high-rise condos. And so, Xavier talks to his wife and he's like, there's this beautiful house that I passed by and it would be great if we could get it, because you'd have a room for your sewing, because she's a crossing guard at a school, but she also sews on the side and makes clothes. And he's like, there's a lovely garden and we could garden. It's such a nice backyard. He's like, it would be great. And we really deserve this. And she's like, how are we going to, pay for this? And he's like, well, we've been saving money and I've been working overtime. And it's just this lovely dream that he has. And it means so much to him. And then she's, kind of in on this dream too. Like, yeah, let's get this house. And so they go look at the house, and I love this film right away. I will just say that. But I love how when they're going to look at the house, and I kind of knew this is where it was going, their house is very vibrantly colored. There's lots of vivid, polychromatic fabrics and lots of different prints. And this house is stark white. Everything is white, 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 white. And the people coming in, yes, and the people coming in are almost all white. And so a lot of what this movie does is through visuals, rather than explaining things explicitly. But yeah, and then as the movie goes along, there's some tensions with Xavier and his boss, who is Latino man, who is racist as fuck. Sadly, we find out because he overhears his boss talking to his nephew, Chino, who is being a dick and racist to one of the other Black workers at the site, at one of the demolition sites. And then he overhears his boss being racist, and it's like, geez, like, this is terrible. And then his son Junior is working as a valet, but he doesn't tell his parents that he's also doing stand-up comedy on the side. So a lot of times he'll be at family functions and parties and he's got to leave. And Xavier's, kind of bummed. He's like, you should be spending time with the family. But he has his own dreams, which then culminates in this really lovely scene between the two of them at the end where they, you hear more about Xavier's perspective coming to the US from Haiti. And and then it culminates in a really heartbreaking scene where not only has the house been sold, but then it's being demolished.
Yep.
So and then in between all of the kind of overarching plot, there are these little moments of there's a Haitian parade coming down the street called a rah-rah, and there's a birthday party at a family member's house, and you see dancing, and just you see these kind of lovely little moments between the family members. And so I've chatted enough about this, giving the plot and giving a sneak peek at what I think. What did you guys think of this?
Loved it.
Yeah! Oh, I'm so excited!
Yeah. I mean, I think when I had read the plot summary originally, it was like, okay, it's a drama about, redevelopment and gentrification. It was a little eyebrow raised of whether I was going to enjoy this or not. But I think it's just a really well done movie. It's really well acted. It's, showing, not telling, which you were saying before. It's very atmospheric. I love that you actually, although Xavier is the main character, you actually spend time with his wife and his son individually. You see things from their perspective. Like you see her go to work as a crossing guard. And I think those glimpses into their lives are just as fascinating and really paint a complete picture of this family. And I really love their interactions together, but I love seeing them individually, especially his wife and the way she kind of moves through the world with him and the way she moves through the world on her own. I feel there is a very different vibe. Like when she's there as the crossing guard, she's like so warm and she's smiling these big smiles, and not that she's not happy with her husband, she just has a very different demeanor with him, a different way of engaging with him, and I thought that was really fascinating. And I was enjoying the son's.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was just gonna say they have a really flirtatious Esperance. That's I kept forgetting her name, but Esperance and Xavier. They have such a flirtatious demeanor, and he's always calling her my love and queen, and just kind of these, sweet, lovely nicknames. And anyway, I kind of love their relationship, like how loving they are to each other. But yes, please continue.
Yeah, they have a very sweet relationship, and I love their rapport. Especially in the quieter scenes where they're just kind of like laying in bed talking, like when he's convincing her at first about the house, and he makes a joke about like, oh, well, Junior's legs are getting really long, so we just need like a bigger house for him to be able to walk around.
I loved that when he said that.
It's so cute.
It was really funny. And then he was said, instead of hot dogs, he said whole dogs, and she's like, what are you talking about? Oh, hot dogs. It's HOT, hot dogs. It just felt like a really real interaction between a couple that it's good nature, just kind of ribbing like, oh, you calling it whole dogs? No, that's not what they're called. And so there's just a lot of really sweet moments between them that I enjoy in this movie. And I mean, I think it also is saying a lot of really poignant things about gentrification in some subtle ways. Like I noticed very early on, whenever Xavier was getting home, there was always that guy walking by the house talking loudly on his phone. And then later on, you don't see that guy anymore because he's left the neighborhood. But then you see the white woman who's like walking her dog and like talking about rosé and stuff.
And also kind of all over their fence, like kind of manhandling their fence. And I like how you see Xavier in the background being like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed
and
that.
So I thought this was really, really well done. I very much enjoyed it. I wasn't necessarily expecting to be as plugged into it as I was, but I think that just speaks to how well done it is.
I could not agree more. And I'm so delighted to hear that. It's just, I kind of wanted to just live in this world. Like I loved
Mhm.
the vibes. I loved the characters. I loved the visuals. They're so vibrant and vivid, just everything happening amidst this, like you said, incredibly poignant, wrenching scenes of a community being erased and having to relocate because of rising costs and being forced out of communities, which is just horrific. I also love that almost the entire movie is spoken in Haitian Creole. I think that is just wonderful. And that was a very intentional choice in order to preserve the language and to show because Monica Sorrell was saying, like, because she's Haitian American too, and she's from the Miami area. And I think she's from Miami. And yes, she is. And she was saying that if you had an immigrant family, they're not going to probably speak English in their home. They're going to speak their language. And so it's really great. I just think that that's a nice touch, as well as you also hear Spanish, you hear English too. Like, so the fact that, by the way, just Xavier is like trilingual, like just so effortlessly.
Mhm.
It's like,
Yeah.
I just am always impressed when people can speak multiple languages just so fluidly and effortlessly or seemingly effortlessly. So,
Mhm.
but
Yeah,
Dave,
and
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Evan,
well, I
please.
was just gonna say before I forget, the one you mentioned when he overhears his boss. So his boss is
Yeah.
speaking in Spanish to his nephew, and Xavier is standing around the corner, and he hears the comment, the really like awful comment that his boss makes,
Hmm.
and he understands it because he speaks Spanish, and the
Yes.
movie just clues you in on that by seeing his face as he hears what they're saying and reacts to it, and that it's a gut punch moment.
Hmm. Hmm. It really is. Dave, what did you think?
I hate to rain on your parade, guys, but that's fine. I love
You
it too.
loved this.
I did.
Yeah,
We
I
have
knew
watched
it.
like 3 micro-budge movies in the last month, and they've all been so good.
I know.
And this is one of those things where you want to say to people who like, only watch let's just say what they watch. And like,
I know what you're saying.
I don't want to watch a movie about fucking gentrification. Shut the fuck up. Jesus Christ. I'm not speaking to anybody in particular. So,
I thought you were going to say the thing where people talk about how there's no good movies out there and all they've seen are,
Mhm.
some mainstream movies, which again, no
Right.
shade to mainstream movies. I love those too.
well,
And I
and
think we all do, but like
and
all of us as in the three of us, but
I
there's
do
so
have a
many
little
more out there.
sympathy for those people because I mean, how would you even know to look for this movie?
Listen to us.
Well, sure.
Well, yes, of course.
No, but
Obviously.
I mean, but I will tell you how. But the problem is it takes work. I
Right.
mean, one, you can obviously read reviews and read interviews, but also something that I've done for a very long time, even before I was, talking and writing about movies, is following what film festivals are showing. And this premiered at Tribeca last year. So it takes more work. And I know that that's something not everybody has the time or the energy or effort to do. But if you can, pay
Mm.
attention to what's coming out of film fests, or at least what is getting awards at film fests, like if nothing else, and then you can keep things on your radar. But yeah, I know it, but you're right. It is tricky. It's hard to do.
Yeah, so since you both explained the plot and things that you liked about it very well, I'm not going to get into plot stuff right away. I'll tell you some things that stuck out to me that I so Xavier, even though he's called Junior, and I'm like, well, okay, his name's Junior. But he and Xavier are so distant at the beginning. I thought for a moment, I'm
Yeah.
like, is this her second marriage? And this is her
Oh.
son and not
Mm.
his? And then I was just like, oh no, they're just estranged, basically.
Hmm.
Because his father barely speaks to him at the beginning. And you can actually see Junior in the first scene he's in when he comes home and just in time for dinner that he's trying to talk to his dad, but you can tell he's like, it's really hard for him to reach out because he's like, fucking my dad's not going to say anything. And his dad's just like giving him 1 and 2 word answers. I just felt bad for the kid then. And
Yeah.
also just the way that they act when they're with them, the way the family acts together, and then the way they act when they're out. They're two really interesting things. Xavier, he's on Junior the whole movie about, you dropped out of school and you're doing this and you're smoking weed now and whatever else you're doing. And but when his brother-in-law or his brother, I can't remember, when they're at
No, his brother-in-law, you were right.
his brother-in-law, when they're at the christening, and he's like, why don't you tell Junior to cut his hair? The first thing he says is, well, he's a grown man. I can't tell him to cut his hair.
Yep, exactly.
But
Great
then later,
observation.
though, they have that confrontation about, this is, whose house is this? That's not really how it starts, but I'm simplifying. But then there's also the moment when Junior, he's had this kind of like understated argument with them right before he goes off to do his set one night, and he turns around and he flips them off through the door, which I didn't know what he was. I thought he was going to go back in there and like shout at them or something, but
yeah, or go and eat dinner and then still be like way late to what he was going to do.
Exactly. But then he goes and he does the set, and it's one of those things where it's like, this is actually a decent set. Could be better, but it's decent. You can tell that he's just starting out, or that he's not so far into his career, because some of those jokes I can kind of hear better tags than he gives them and things like that. Anyway,
what's funny though? That actor is actually a stand-up comedian in Miami, which I think is so funny.
You can tell that he's a real comedian because he's got the rhythm and everything like that. But then when he's talking to his friend afterward, who's doing the videography for him, and his friend is like, well, why don't you instead, you're always talking about your immigrant parents, why don't you say my Haitian parents? He's like, well, I don't, want to alienate anybody in the audience. And I took that to mean, just in case my parents ever come to watch this set, even though this club is in Little Haiti, I don't really want to just, they'll know it's about them, but I don't want to make it about them. Or just maybe the reverence he has for, Haitian immigrants, even though he's making fun of them at the same time, although he's making fun of his mom and dad. It's a different thing. But that stood out to me too. And my favorite line in the movie was that we have to move because Junior has long legs.
Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah,
but Dave, I love what you're saying about that though. About because it's funny. I had initially took that to mean like, oh, he wants to appeal to the broadest audience possible. But I think that's such a fascinating observation, like that he doesn't want to offend his parents. Because even if they're not there, he's like kind of thinking of them, because I think that speaks to something that Monica Sorrell said in an interview with RogerEbert.com. She was talking about the kind of the struggles and the push-pull of being a child of immigrant parents, and this kind of, you want to do your own thing, but also you have these expectations because your parents have sacrificed so much for you to come here. And so I think in a very intriguing way, it kind of speaks to that. That speaks to that duality within himself, within his comedy, within the relationship between him and his father. So,
yeah. And then that scene at the end when Xavier is sitting on his bed and just basically that monologue. And he's not saying anything that's surprising at all, but but his performance is just he's so good.
He's so good.
I've never seen this guy before, as far as I know. This is one of the best performances I think I've seen in my life.
Yeah, he's done a lot of like small performances in films and TV series, but yeah, again, Monica Sorrell was saying when they were casting, the guy who ends up playing the brother-in-law, Xavier's brother-in-law, but Esperanza's brother, he originally, I think they were thinking of him as Xavier, and they saw him or he auditioned or something, and they were like, no, he's not right, but they cast him for that. And then, so they didn't want to do a casting call. And so they had the casting director kind of put a reel together of Haitian American actors so they could watch their bits. And one of the movies that the brother-in-law actor was in, he also was in. And so when they saw him, they're like, oh my God, this guy is magnetic. We have to get him. And so,
he's really a captivating presence.
He really is, but also he feels like a real person. Like
Feels
he's
like
so grounded.
Yeah, it's like the best. You know how a lot of times you'll see like a first filmmaker's movie, or they'll be like, "Yeah, we use like non-professional actors," and you're like, "Yeah, no shit."
Sadly, yes.
But this is kind of like he's so authentic that he seems like a non-professional actor, but he can act.
Yeah,
you know,
like in the best possible way. He seems like he was just plucked off the street, but no, he was not.
Yeah, this performance really feels lived in, and
yes.
and I just did appreciate that moment. I don't remember exactly what he said at the end though, when he says to Junior, basically, "You can do what you want, and you won't get any more grief from me." I was just like, "Aw."
It was so lovely.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, it's a really tender, heartfelt scene. I remember him saying something effective like, "I understand you." Like
Yes.
I see
That's
you
what he
and I
says.
understand you.
Yes.
And something to the effect
Oh.
of like, I busted my ass to give you the option to make your own choices in life. And if I can't even give you that, like basically I don't know what was I here for or something to that
Right.
effect.
Right. Like that's the whole point, is to give him choices. Oh, I know, but Xavier's really going through it because he has that, and he has to come to terms with his own expectations for his son, and then his dream is stolen away when the house is sold, and then he's got to witness it being demolished. Oh my God!
Woof. It's rough.
Oh, poor Xavier. But I really love that he's there. He leaves. He leaves when the crew he works with is setting up for the demolition, and he leaves, and he goes and he sees Junior at his valet job, and then he comes back to watch, to like witness this. And I kind of love that there's this, not even kind of, I love that there's this surreal moment where that parade, that rah-rah is around him, and he almost like disappears into it. It's such an emotional scene. I love that. It's beautiful.
Yeah, there's just the right amount of dead air there. That's why I broke in. You got about 3 seconds, but not. Yeah, this is just really exceptional piece of work.
Yeah.
So,
I agree. The visuals, the acting is phenomenal.
it looks
the
really
writing,
good too.
It looks so good.
The colors are. It's not even that they're vibrant, because some of them are, of course, but it's that there's contrast. I think that's what I'm trying to. The word is contrast.
Yes.
The darks are dark, the reds are red, the greens are green. The ocean looks like the ocean. Miami looks like fucking Miami, for better or worse.
I love Miami.
I love Miami too, but every once in a while it's like, really, the palm tree in the middle of the building? Even though it was, for 4 years or whatever in the Miami Vice opening. Yeah, I think that's just what I mean. We were talking, listeners, on our Patreon. We talked about the James Bond film Never Say Never Again, which looks like shit. Just because it's not because it's like they stuck a giant light in Bond's face and there's huge shadows on the wall, but just it's flat. It's a flat looking movie. This tiny budget, micro budget movie has just these vibrant colors. And you can see outside. You can see in the nighttime photography, but it's like very clearly nighttime. It's not day for night. It's just like whoever did this has lit movies on the cheap before, is all I can think. And is also quite talented. I don't want to take that away from them.
No, totally. And I think something else that I've just was thinking about as you're talking about that is that this is a cast where it's Black actors, it's Latino actors, and I have read multiple interviews and articles where filmmakers and DPs talk about, who are Black filmmakers and Black DPs talk about how far too often cinematographers don't know how to light Black people. They know how to light white people, and it's different. And so to me, that's another level of skill or awareness that just, again, elevates this film. Something else that's kind of, I want to say minor, but it's actually not minor. I think it adds to the the ambiance of this film, very importantly, are the beautiful scenes of food. Like we see so many like stews being cooked and rice and just like delicious looking food. And I feel like in a lesser film, the camera wouldn't linger on those moments because it's not furthering the plot. It's not, it's seemingly like unimportant, and it's not. It's extremely important. It's important to the family, to the culture, to the atmosphere of the film, and I just love that.
Yeah, Haitian food's good. So
yeah. Oh wait, I've never had it. I've had Jamaican food. I'm sorry, I was thinking I haven't. I need to have Haitian food.
It's good. I mean, anything that's got a higher spice level than average for me, I'm on board with. Which reminds me, I bought some spicy guacamole and I forgot to eat it.
Get to eating that.
I will be opening that bag of chips after the show. The other thing this stuck out to me so much is the way when Esperance is cooking, when she tastes her own food, she doesn't like use the spoon. She puts a little bit on like the heel of her hand.
Yes.
And like then puts her hand to her mouth. I'm like, I've never seen anyone do that. And I wonder if that's like a Haitian Creole thing or if that's just what she does. But it's such a great choice because it says a lot about her. It's like, I'm not going to take the spoon that I ate and put it back in there, or this is for everybody. It's not just, I don't know what, there are several different things, I think, ways you could interpret that, but, or maybe it's what one of her, parents did. So that's what she does. Like, who knows? But it's just such a like little unique detail that, it was great. You see her do it twice. So.
I agree with you. Like there's that. Oh, I love that scene. That's such a good one. There's so many good ones. But since we're talking about like food, and now I'm clearly hungry. But like I like how they talk about pickles, which is like the spicy hot sauce condiment. When Xavier and Esperance are talking, and like in the beginning of the film, when she's starting to tell like kind of a gossipy story, and he says crick, and then later he says crack. And I was like, what is crick and what is crack? And it's terms used when you're about to introduce a story, or crick crack is like a type of storytelling in Haitian culture. And again, I just like, that clearly is not put in there for people who don't know. Like it's there for other, Haitians and Haitian Americans. But I love those little moments that, those of us who aren't familiar with Haitian culture and Haitian language can learn too. And I love everything about this movie. Every decision, every choice, every vibe.
Yeah.
Love it.
Exactly. So, well, now that we've solved the world's movie problem, which is that everybody needs to see mountains and your faith will be restored in film.
Yes.
Even though I'm sure this was shot digitally.
Do you guys have any final thoughts?
I do not.
Evan, what about you?
I think one of the things that I also found heartbreaking early in the film was when they were showing all these different locations that they were demolishing, and you can see that people have been living in those places.
Yeah. Oh,
that
yes.
Was right up until the end.
Yes, the beds on like the wooden slats. Yes. Yeah. Monica Sorrell said that since making that fit, like a year after filming, that people told her that like some of those businesses were gone. So yeah. And she did say that she very much wants people to take away from this movie the importance of being aware, being a good neighbor, being aware of gentrification, and if you can, get ahead of it and be as much of an activist as you can and be aware of what's going on, because it really is, it's so tragic. But I do love that amidst that tragic undercurrent, there's so much joy in this film, and there's so much beauty and love.
By the way, my single favorite moment, aside from Junior Has Long Legs, is at the christening, when the christening is like there's somebody leaving and they go to get their bag off the bed, and the little girl whose christening it is and some other little girl are taking a nap on the bed. I was just like,
oh, and the coats and stuff. Yeah,
how it's like it's really a party more for the adults than it is the kids. So
love that.
Yeah,
it's so true. All right. Well, let's do a recap. The Deliverance is in theaters now, and it is on Netflix now as well. It opened in theaters on this August 16th and is on Netflix August 30th. I think it's safe to say we all would say skip it.
Deliver that one to the trash heap, man.
Yeah, deliver us from this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't top that. Or I'm not even going to try. Those were hilarious, and you guys are great. Okay, and Mountains. Mountains opened in theaters in Miami, appropriately enough, on August 16th. It opened in New York on August 23rd. It opens in more cities, such as Boston, LA, and more on August 30th. So it's hopefully in theaters now in a city near you. And if it's not, I hope it's coming. Keep your eye out for it. I think it's, again, safe to say we all would highly recommend this.
For
Yes.
sure.
Yay. We are all in sync. That does not happen all the time. I love it.
It does.
Although I love when we disagree too, but because that's fun.
Yeah.
And if you love the show, I was like, check out some of our other episodes. You can go to spoilerpiece.com or spoilerpiece.libsyn.com and listen to all of our episodes. We're everywhere you get podcasts. Also want to give a huge thank you to our editor, Otto Clamor. Otto, thank you so much for making us sound great week after week.
Thanks, Otto.
Thanks, Otto.
You can also follow Spoiler Piece all over the place at social media. We're at Spoiler Piece Theater on Facebook. We're at Spoiler Piece on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads. So come say hello. Come follow us. We love to hear from you. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us spoilerpiece@gmail.com, or you can give us a call
At 862-21-PEACE.
Leave us a voicemail message. Let us know that you think we are dead wrong and The Deliverance is a great, fun film. And if you saw Mountains, let us know what you thought of it. We hope you loved it as much as we did. And if you love the show, consider becoming a patron, because for $5 a month, you get access to weekly bonus episodes like this, and you get to vote in polls like this week, where it's a poll winner in our bonus episode, and we talk about Never Say Never Again, the 1983 Sean Connery Bond film. And we had a blast talking about it. So if you're not a patron, consider joining. If you want, you can also go to our website and it will take you to our TeePublic store. You can rock our merch. You can wear our t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies. That's a sweatshirt. Pillows, mugs, tote bags, the whole shebang. You can check that out too. And yeah, I think that's it. All right. So I'm Megan Kearns. I write for Edge Media Network. I'm also a co-host of the Slashers podcast. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and a member of Gallica. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at OpinionS World, or on Instagram and Letterboxd at The OpinionS.
My name is Dave Riedel. Write about movies. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and I'm on all the social medias, Letterboxd, Instagram, you know what they are, as Dave Sees Movies.
You know, I'm not going to list them. My name is Evan Crean. I'm co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, co-author of Your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living, and co-host of the It's the Pictures podcast. You can follow me on social media, and I won't name all the places. You'll just have to find me. It's Real Recon, and that's real as in film reel.
It's like a scavenger hunt. Just go try to find them all. How many of their social media profiles can you find? All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.